Hi, Jen here with Blessed by Angels, and I wanted to continue on this series of talking about progression within our ancestors in the spirit realm. So today we're going to be talking about the second area in which our ancestors, as they cross over, they're able to view their life sketch, and we're going to talk about the second element that they're aware of, which is how their choices affected other people. Now, this might come forward as like they were very happy with their relationships. They remember all of those positive memories. They took time to create those memories. They were very confident and happy about that time. However, there are times also where maybe someone really didn't live their best life in their relationship to their family members, or they cut people off, or maybe they were reliant upon substances, maybe they hurt or they were abusive in some way. Our ancestors always acknowledge maybe that element of life as well. Now, a lot of times I find this very common if there was maybe an abusive or an emotionally abusive family member or relative who wasn't the kindest to the person they're speaking to. A lot of times they first and foremost want to take responsibility for their part of their actions. It's almost like sometimes when we're here and maybe we're in a lot of pain, it can be easy to hurt other people when we're wounded. We always hear like wounded people wound others. And sometimes they might even want to point their fingers at other people's things or blame things on other people and not want to look inward and to take accountability or responsibility. Just as our experience here, when we're in the wrong or when we're trying to move forward, we have to take responsibility and accountability for ourselves. Because yes, they might have had this experience as a child, but they continually chose to bring that forward with them in their existence, in their relationships in the future. And so it's almost like I always see they want to come forward and to apologize and to take responsibility for how their actions affected their ancestors who are still here. And I find that is very healing for people. I find that they say, all I wanted my whole life was for them to say sorry or them to acknowledge their part in the situation. And I find that they always want to bring forth that acknowledgement. And then they want to share about how, as they're able to take responsibility, as they're able to take account for their specific choices, it's almost like it opens up a whole new space, a whole new freedom within their spirit to continually progress, to add light, to add love, to add self-forgiveness, in hopes that one day they will be forgiven as well. And not only that, they want to be there to help their ancestors heal. However, they do also acknowledge and they do also honor our space. So maybe there's someone who we're not physically ready to work with or to have come forward or to make amends with. Or we might not be wanting to forgive them, but I see that even if it's someone who they like, I don't have communication with this person, I don't want them to be around. It's almost like I can still visually see them in the distance, and they just want to acknowledge their part of it. They want to acknowledge what they can, but they still honor our space, they honor our freedom, and they don't hold that grudge to us. If we're still here holding on to those experiences, those memories, those stories, that heaviness, like we have that choice within us to let it go or to hold on to it. And so they honor that within us because they also were there and they also experienced it. And having that been said too, I also want to acknowledge that they're in the process of learning and growing and having that progression in themselves. But it's not like just because they forgive themselves, they're like in the clear. And I feel like a lot of times people have this weird thought, like this, I feel like a lot of times people have this misconception that if they forgive somebody or if they let that go, then the person who experienced it, the person who did those things is never going to stand responsible for their actions. Now, I'm telling you this on the other side, they're definitely even more aware of how their actions affected people, affected other human life, other people's spirits. And it's almost like that right there, they're learning and they're taking responsibility and they're aware of that. And I find that they always want to be there to greet their people, their ancestors who maybe have had these grudges or held on to these things. I see them wanting to be there to take responsibility, to stand there, to be with them, to acknowledge that space. But having them take their responsibility on for themselves really helps them find empowerment, progression, and growth on the other side. And it's so beautiful to be able to see like that even though we might have holdbacks or setbacks here, it's like they can overcome them and they can accomplish them and they can move forward and to evolve and to grow on the other side if they weren't able to do that here. I could talk hours and hours and hours about this element, about their personal growth and everything like that. And it's that same concept of maybe a grandmother who had a hard time speaking up or not feeling like she was of worth or that she could share something. So she might first come forward with her blocked throat or a little bit more timid. And then as she talks about her progression, all of a sudden this personality blossoms into this spirit of like, I have so much freedom, or she sends butterflies or birds or anything like dragonflies, different things of freedom, of being able to speak up and to share her truth. And so not only that, they're progressively learning and growing and wanting to share their growth, wanting to share their insight with their ancestors who were here in those exciting and hopeful ways. I love sharing this portion, and it's just amazing to be able to see how, we're progressing here and we're growing. And as we cross over, we're just continually doing the same thing, being able to add more light and love and acceptance is such a beautiful process. And I love being able to share those messages to help us here find that healing, find that comfort, find that peace in being able to move over. Now, if you're watching this and you're wondering, I wonder if my ancestors have been able to progress, or if they've been able to have happiness or find forgiveness or find closure or completion within their space. The next section in which I'm going to talk about is events leading up to their passing, how they're aware of that, but also how they want to be here to help us and how they want to show us that they're okay, they're at peace, and how they can connect with us individually. So stay tuned for that, because I will be addressing that. So you don't have to talk to someone else. You can find that happiness, so you don't have to even necessarily set up a session or anything like that, but you yourself can find that answer, can experience that peace, and to know that your ancestors and your loved ones on the other side are at peace with their passing as well.